Greetings. This morning, I want to talk about memory. And I'm talking about it because I've wondered about my memory over the last, well, I'll say year and a half. And it was kind of highlighted in the last video I did where I was talking about the Star Wars movies, ranking 10 of the 11 movies because I didn't see Han Solo. Don't want to see Han Solo still. And I noticed, because I always go back and watch my videos, and because I don't know how to edit anything, you know what, the video is what it is. And I kept calling Carrie Fisher Carrie Walker. Carrie Walker because she's part of the Skywalker family, and I just kept calling her that. And I said, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? And some of the other names I had to look up. I had already had a list of certain names, you know, and the characters that they played, and then there were others I just didn't remember and whatever. And I said, goodness, is my memory going? You know, I mean, I'm 61 years old and I've hit, you know, a certain plateau with certain things. I don't necessarily type as well as I used to. I used to type somewhere around 150 to 170 words a minute. I can still type pretty fast, but I make a lot more errors now. So you get to that point where you're saying, oh my goodness, is my memory going? My mother's got dementia. Am I going to have dementia? And I wanted to basically say that when I really thought about it, because I've been thinking about it since I did that other video, and I said, you know, let's face the fact here. When I was younger, and let's go back to my 20s, there was a lot of things I didn't know and I didn't remember. I have almost never known the names of most people in movies. You know, if they were a really big name, I had a chance on knowing who they were, but in general, For instance, the very first Star Wars movie, I didn't remember any of those people's names. I remembered the character names, but I didn't know the names of any of the actors. When I saw The Matrix, didn't remember any actor names. When I saw Jurassic Park, okay, I knew a couple of those names because, you know, Jeff Goldblum. How are you going to forget Jeff Goldblum? And Laura Dern. Well, okay, love Laura Dern. But I could not remember anybody else's names, even though some of those people's faces were familiar. Didn't know it. And then I thought about, okay, well, so what about music? Music was a different thing. Back then, I knew a lot of names. I knew a lot of the songs, but I really didn't know a lot of the lyrics. Even though I fancied myself early on in the early 80s as a songwriter and as a lyricist, and I, you know, thought about that, and I said, you know what? I only remembered half of my own lyrics. Because I recorded every song after I wrote it, and then I went on to the next song. So I didn't sit there and memorize a lot of it because I wasn't a performer early on. And I only got to do one of my songs at one wedding, and it's the very last wedding I did, and that was in 1999. So I never got to perform. Okay, that's not actually true. I did do another one of my songs when I was part of the wedding party. I forgot about that. When was that? Was that late 80s, I think? So, okay, twice did I get to perform a song that I wrote. And those are the only two songs that I remembered all the lyrics to forever. I mean, I've got something like, you know, 20, 21 songs that are copywritten. Couldn't tell you any of the lyrics for any of those things. But, like I said, I knew who artists were. In the 70s, different story. I knew my music. I heard something new. Bam, it's there. The lyrics are there. I could sing along with the lyrics, and I knew who all the people were when I saw them on TV, because you saw people on TV. This is before there were video channels, so, you know, once you saw those people, you were good. We had Soul Train, and you had, oh my goodness, here you go. Oh, American Bandstand. And, you know, occasionally they would show up on Johnny Carson. I wonder how many young folks know who Johnny Carson is. Doesn't matter. You know, it's just one of those kind of things where I think that you have a certain period of time where you know a whole bunch of things, and then they stick with you. And then as you get older, things change a little bit. For instance, in my mid-20s, when I decided, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my life my business life towards learning everything I can about healthcare finance. Not just billing, I mean everything, which is registration, which is charge capture throughout the entire hospital, which is coding. I learned about coding, but I was never an official coder. Collections, dealing with patients. I mean, I learned all of that stuff, and it helped me in my career. So I used to read all the manuals, and I knew all that stuff, and I read, all these different contracts. And there's a lot of things that now I still know based off of that. Now, I'm about maybe 5 or 6 years behind new stuff, but I can go into any hospital in America, or actually since I'm now home, I can look at any information for any hospital in this country and make them better. Help them earn, create more revenue, and help them to bring in more cash. I can evaluate the billing departments. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff I can do in my field. My other field is leadership. I can help anybody become a better leader. A great leader will take a whole lot more time if they didn't have any real experience, but I can make someone a really good leader if they care to be that. But outside of that, I think I see, well, okay, let's throw out last year because the pandemic just basically shut everything down. But in general, I probably saw before then only 2 or 3 movies at the theater every year. I did not keep up with names unless it was something like some of the Marvel people. I started to know who they were after a while, but let's face the facts here. I mean, we were, 13, 14 years worth of movies. So some of that helped. But overall, I did not remember a lot of the names. And I had to give myself a break on that when I thought about the video I did last week about Star Wars. I said, yeah, I didn't know who those people were way back then. Why should I know who they are now? And music lyrics. Didn't know what any of that was. What's funny is that except for when I did the video, actually that was a full week ago, talking about waking up and realizing that it was the 40th year since I graduated from college. That was an anomaly that I just remembered that because numbers are one of the weirdest things that I have memorized. Until I was, 28 years old, believe this or not, I memorized every phone number I had ever heard or had ever had. And that's interesting when you think about it. We can go back to, this is going to be really odd, you can go back to 1965 when I was living in Japan and I was 5, 6 years old. I knew what my phone number was. I didn't know anyone else's phone numbers because, people didn't used to, talk about phone numbers in front of kids back then. But if I heard a phone number and I could relate it to someone, I knew it. I knew it when I was in Kansas City. I knew it when I first lived in New York. I knew it when I lived up in Maine. If I heard a phone number and there was a face to associate it with it, then I was good. But the other side of that is that I always had trouble remembering people's names if I didn't really care about them. And that's a shame. When I first started working at a hospital, the first hospital in 1983, I think it took me 2 weeks before I could remember the names of the people who were in my department. It's a shame, but there you go. But it took me only 2 days to understand the computer, and I had never worked on a computer. So it depends on what your mind is ready to absorb at the time. So I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I do remember things. Yes. At my age right now, I probably remember as much as I remembered way back in the day, but my priorities have shifted. And now I need to remember a lot of things about my mother. I need to remember, the stuff that I can still consult on, the stuff that I write on. I've written a whole bunch of articles. I can't quote a bunch of those articles, but I can definitely, if someone brought up one of the topics of an article I did, I know what I was talking about. Videos, for the most part, I think are the same. So it's one of those kind of fears that you have when you say, oh my goodness, I can't remember any names. Am I losing my mind? Luckily, I can probably say no. I'm still going to make a whole bunch of mistakes when I do the videos. Luckily, I don't make them when I write, because you can stop and you can go, look something up and verify, okay, yes, I got that right, or geez, I'm glad I looked this up because I was using that word incorrectly. But it doesn't necessarily mean that when you get into a certain age that your memory has totally left you. It just means that you're not concentrating on that thing anymore. And that's comforting. However, if you get to a point where you just are really starting to forget a lot of things, and I mean a lot of things, then maybe that's the time that you should go talk to someone to find out, is your memory slipping? Is it stress? Because I will own up to that one. I've been under a lot of stress over the last 2 or 3 months, to the extent that 3 times I have left my keys in the door. Oh, goodness. And it's funny. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, wait a minute. Did I set the alarm? I didn't set the alarm. Where are my keys? Can't find my keys. Did I leave my keys in the door? And that's a shame. But, like I said, I'm under a bit of stress. I'm not going to lie. So, luckily, no one has been able to get into the garage because I have a double lock on the main door, and the big garage door is that sucker's heavy. I mean, it would basically take 3 people to lift that. I can't lift it because there's nothing to grip. There's nothing. If I hadn't had the garage floor redone back in 2014, maybe it's a different story. But I had that redone so that everything was flush. So I'm kind of protected that way. So, if y'all catch me saying certain things that you may say, okay, that didn't make any sense. I mentioned a name and I didn't get the name right. I mean, some years ago, I kept getting the name of the guy who was accused of assassinating Martin Luther King Jr. wrong. I kept calling him James Anthony Ray, who was a character. Well, actually, he was an actor on the show Fame and then the movie Fame. It happens. So, this is not necessarily an apology video for that. It's just real life. You know what? A few months, I'll be 62 years old. Luckily, I don't totally look it. I still get asked by other people, are you in your 40s? Thank you for that. It helps to keep the hair short. My name is Mitch Mitchell. Y'all let me know what you think. I hope you have a wonderful week.